The article from the AP says the Arizona legislature devolved into shouts of shame on Wednesday as Republican lawmakers quickly shut down discussions on a proposed repeal of the state's newly revived 1864 law that criminalizes abortion throughout pregnancy unless a woman's life is at risk. The state Supreme Court cleared the way on Tuesday for enforcement of the pre-statehood law. Arizona abortion providers vowed yesterday to continue service until they're forced to stop, possibly within weeks. State legislators convened as pressure mounted from Democrats and some Republicans, including former President Donald Trump, for them to intervene. House Democrats and at least one Republican tried to open discussion on a repeal of the 1864 abortion ban, which holds no exceptions for rape or incest. GOP leaders who commanded the majority cut it off twice and quickly adjourned for the week. I think we have some footage of the commotion. Let's watch that.
I move that we recess to the sound of the bell immediately.
You've heard the secondary motion. I heard a second. All in favor of that motion, vote aye. Aye. All opposed, vote no. Ayes have it, so ordered.
Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you! Hold the vote! Hold the vote! Hold the vote! Hold the vote!
We know that the...
All right. So they're very upset, and these are people who, just to be clear, of course, about what they're upset about, they're upset that that fewer babies are going to be killed in the state of Arizona. They're very, very upset. They're very distraught when they lie awake at night, tossing and turning, thinking about all of the babies who will live instead of being dismembered. That's what they're upset about. So these are evil, evil people. And, one of the arguments, you heard in the article I just read, the fact that this was an 1864 law was mentioned like 4 times. That's supposed to be relevant. The fact that the law dates back that far. So it's a law. Like, it doesn't matter how old it is. So the claim is that, well, yeah, but people who are alive today didn't vote on that law. Is that the way the law works now? That every law that predates our own existence has to come back up for a vote? Is that the way that we think a democracy is going to work now? That any law that existed before us doesn't count? And we have to, so with every new generation, we have to vote again on every law to make sure that every new generation is okay with every law that's been passed in the past. It's crazy. It's insane. But this is the argument. And unfortunately, it's an argument being made not just by Democrats, but by Republicans. Carrie Lake, who's running for Senate, says that she opposes the Supreme Court decision banning abortion in her state. And Trump told reporters yesterday that he thinks that the law, quote, went too far. Watch.
Mr. President, did Arizona go too far? Did Arizona go too far?
Yeah, they did, and that'll be straightened out. And as you know, it's all about states' rights. That'll be straightened out. And I'm sure that the governor and everybody else are going to bring it back into reason, and that will be taken care of, I think, very quickly.
What do you think about Florida?
Florida's probably maybe going to change also. See, it's all it's the will of the people. This is what I've been saying. It's a perfect system. So for 52 years, people have wanted to end Roe v. Wade to get it back to the states. We did that. It was an incredible thing, an incredible achievement. We did that, and now the states have it, and the states are putting out what they want. It's the will of the people. So Florida's probably going to change. Arizona's going to definitely change. Everybody wants that to happen. And you're getting the will of the people. It's been pretty amazing when you think.
Okay, so that's Trump. He says that, everybody's happy that Roe v. Wade was overturned. Obviously, everyone is not happy. He says everybody wants the Arizona law to be changed. Everyone does not want that. Now, look, I've already said that I understand the prudential political judgment to not call for a federal ban on abortion when you're running for national political office. Now, I personally would like to see a federal ban. I think it should be banned federally. But I also don't believe in committing political hara-kiri in a way that that won't achieve anything except making it a lot harder for you to win an election, thereby ensuring that a radically pro-abortion lunatic in Joe Biden who imprisons pro-lifers will get elected. So I get all that, but if your argument is that it's states' rights and the state should make the choice, and then you come out and oppose a state law banning abortion, well, now you're not making a states' rights case anymore. So that Trump's response there doesn't really make any sense. He says, yeah, the law went too far. It's states' rights. But it is a state. This was not a federal law. This is about Arizona. So now you're just making a case against pro-life laws. This is not states' rights anymore. You're in principle making a case against the pro-life law itself. And that we can't do. We can't do that, both because it's just wrong. It's the wrong view, and it's wrong to throw the whole pro-life movement under the bus. And also because politically, it's not a smart tactic. Okay, let me put it this way. No matter what you do or say as a Republican, you are going to be painted as the anti-choice extremist, quote unquote. Okay, that happens no matter what. There's nothing Trump can do or say that's going to make the left go, oh, you know what? Yeah, he's cool on this. He's cool, guys. Hey, he's cool. He's not against your reproductive rights, women. He's not going to try to turn this into a Handmaid's Tale. He would never do that. They are not going to say that. It doesn't matter. Trump could come out tomorrow and announce that he's calling for legalized abortion nationwide through every trimester of pregnancy. He could say that, and it wouldn't matter. They still would brand him a radical pro-life militant. It's not very different from what they do with race. Okay, you can come out and say, I'm for prison reform, I'm for criminal justice reform, I think there are a lot of racist cops, I think systemic racism. You can say all that, and they still are going to brand you as a Jim Crow racist. You want to bring it back to Jim Crow, you want to go all the way back to slavery. That's still going to be the narrative, no matter what you say. And that matters. That matters, obviously, politically. It also sort of, in a way, takes the pressure off. Like there's no reason to compromise on your basic principle. I mean, you shouldn't anyway, but there's no political reason to do it because it doesn't matter if you do. Their narrative about you is going to be the same no matter what you say. And so don't worry about that. Don't worry about their narrative. You can't change it. Well, it's 2024, and if you're still spending your money with woke companies, cut it out. There are a lot of great companies out there that aren't shoving diversity and inclusion initiatives down the throats of their employees or their customers. Maybe you're already doing business with some of these. That's great. Maybe you're boycotting companies who have made headlines by acquiring the latest trans influencer as their spokesperson or whatever. Even better. But have you given much thought to where your money is currently invested? A lot of big wealth management companies make billions of dollars investing your money however they want, wherever they want, even if that means investing in businesses who don't care about your values. Align your portfolio with your principles today with my friends at Constitution Wealth. Constitution Wealth is the Patriot's choice in wealth management. They'll help you build a solid investment plan while reducing your investments in the ESGs and DEIs, companies that care more about global warming and diversity ratios than they do about your return on your investment. And with Constitution Wealth, you can start using your shareholder votes to support conservative action. Fight the culture war with your most valuable weapon, your investments. Help build the parallel economy by working with an investment firm composed of professionals who are patriots like you. If you have $250,000 or more of stock and bond investments and would like to reduce your exposure to woke companies, go to constitutionwealth.com/Matt. That's constitutionwealth.com/Matt. So look, there are two ways to go. Given the reality that no matter what you do, you are a quote unquote anti-choice, So there are two ways to go with that tactically. Okay, and that's what we're talking right now about tactics. One is to continually insist that it isn't true, because actually your views are much more moderate than the real pro-life militants. You could try that. You could say, oh yeah, well there's a pro-life extremist over there. I'm not with them. I'm not one of them. Yuck. I don't want them. You could do that. And this is what Republicans have done historically. Okay, this has been the historic Republican strategy for as long as I've been alive. The pro-lifers have been treated as sort of the redheaded stepchildren of the conservative movement by most mainstream national Republicans forever. And so that's what you can do. I think there's little evidence that it pays off. And again, I'm putting aside the fact that it's just wrong. It's just the wrong thing to do. But politically, there's little evidence that that pays off. The other strategy is not to we'll just jump on the grenade and and take a politically unpopular position and live with it. And that's not what I'm saying. I guess that's a third option. So maybe there's three options. That's the third. I say don't do that either. There's a second option though, which is to flip the script. Okay, to stop having the argument on their terms, to stop accepting their framing, to put them on defense. And that isn't very difficult to do because, fortunately, the pro-life argument is very strong, but you have to make it. Okay, think about this. There are many Republican politicians who've decided that being pro-life is a political loser, even though they have never, not once, never, not ever, actually articulated the pro-life case with any force or effectiveness. Now, yes, every Republican pretty much has at some point or another called themselves pro-life. Maybe they've said something about we should protect the unborn, that sort of thing. So they in a sentence or two, they have very vaguely, very broadly articulated that they are pro-life. But how many elected Republicans can you think of who have actually made the argument in an effective way, just explained, look, I'm pro-life, here's why, and then explained it. And the case, again, is very solid. Because this is the case. In the form of a kind of a syllogism, this is the pro-life case. Number one, it is always wrong to intentionally and directly kill innocent, defenseless human beings. Number one. Number two, unborn babies are human beings. They cannot possibly be anything else, because if there was something else, that would mean they were another species, and obviously they're not another species, so they are human. Number three, therefore, abortion intentionally and directly kills innocent and defenseless human beings. Number four, therefore, abortion is wrong. Okay, that's how you walk through. Just 4 points, very clear, doesn't take long to say. It's not complicated. It's very simple. You could say this on a debate stage. It's not extremist. It's not radical. It's a clear, powerful case. All right, it's the reason I'm pro-life. It's because I find that convincing. Doesn't mean everybody will, but you can make that argument and actually convince people. I've done it. Don't tell me it can't be done. Because that's the other thing you hear also all the time is that people will say that, well, you can't convince anyone to be pro-life. The people saying that have never even tried to convince anyone. They have no clue what they're talking about. So that's the pro-life position. And I ask you, when is the last time you heard a Republican, any Republican, in any elected office or running for office, spell the argument out that way? I'm not saying it's never happened, but I can't even think of one example off the top of my head. Maybe some people in the comments will say, well, here's someone, but maybe there have been a few. It wouldn't surprise me if there's been a few, but it is very, very rare. And that's pretty amazing, isn't it? Because this is the argument, and yet you can hardly think of one example in the last 30 years of a Republican actually making what the argument is, explaining what it is. It almost never happens. So I keep hearing that Republicans lose if they make the pro-life argument, yet I've never heard any of them make it. So how can we say that? How in the hell can you say that they lose if they do something they've never actually done? Here's the beauty of this syllogism. There is a way to argue against what I just said, against the 4 points. You could do it. It's not like there's no argument against it. I mean, there's an argument against anything. Might not be a good argument, but might not be a true argument. There's an argument against anything. So there is an argument. But the only thing you can really dispute is point one. That's the only one you can really take issue with. So point two, that quote unquote fetuses are human, that's scientifically indisputable. You cannot dispute that. It's like disputing that an eagle is a bird. It just doesn't make any sense. You can't dispute it. So there's no way around it. You can dispute point one. You could say that, well, actually, it's not always wrong to intentionally and directly kill an innocent human being. You could say that, yeah, fetuses, quote unquote, are human, And yes, you're killing them through abortion, but it's not always wrong to do that. So you can make, that is the argument. That is the only argument against the pro-life syllogism. I think it's the wrong argument morally, but that is the argument you're making if you support abortion. You're saying that actually, in fact, sometimes killing innocent human life directly and intentionally is okay. So, okay, let the left make that argument. Force them to make that argument. Force the debate to be around that point, not any other point. Is it okay under some circumstances to intentionally directly kill innocent human beings? That is the fundamental question. And if you support abortion, your answer to that question is yes. All right, if that's your answer. But you can see why nobody really wants to say that. Nobody wants to frame it that way. That is not the argument anyone wants to have. No politician wants to stand up on the stage and say, all right, let me explain why sometimes killing innocent people is okay. Nobody wants to say that. But that is that's what they're saying. They're saying it, but they don't want to say it. So they'd rather access the abortion conversation. They'd rather stay in the peripheral, stay on the boundaries. They don't want to talk about the actual issue. They want to talk about rape and incest, life of the mother, this and that, and do we imprison women after they get abortions? Like, they want to stay all out here. But the thing right there in the middle, the core of the issue, they don't want to talk about it. And yet conservatives allow them to stay on the perimeter rather than saying, no. We're not even talking about that. I'm not even talking about that. How are we going to talk about that before we've even talked about what the actual issue is itself? And this strategy of reframing the argument, discipline on the message, not allowing them to change the subject, not allowing them to get hung up on hard cases, all that strategy can work. We've seen it work. It's what we did successfully and are doing successfully on the gender issue. Okay, it's why we have seen, this is not some accident, okay? The fact that we've seen this massive change in the tide, especially when it comes to children being castrated and mutilated, where we are now culturally on that issue is night and day from where we were 3-4 years ago. And that was not an accident. There's a strategy behind it. It was intentional. Those of us in that movement said, here's how we're going to go about this. And we framed the argument. We said, this is what the subject is. We're not going to let you talk about anything else on this. This is what we're talking about. Do you support castrating and mutilating kids or not? That's what it is. And we hammered on that, and we're winning. And the same thing can happen here. Hey, YouTube, thanks for listening to the show. If you'd like access to my full show with no ads, you should go to dailywire.com and use promo code Walsh to get 2 months free on all annual plans. See you there.